Turn off.
What? Did you bring? This is a time set for the hearing of the matter of the appeal filed by Tammi Packer, owner of Packer Orchards and Farm Place Farm Stand, of the county planning director's decision to conditionally approve her application to modify her existing farm stand permit. At this time, I'll be opening the hearing. Because this hearing is being recorded, anyone who wishes to speak should come to the front, state your name, address, and speak clearly into the microphone. An opportunity for those attending virtually to testify will also be given. All persons at this hearing have the right to be heard, provided that no person has the right to be disorderly, abusive, disruptive to the orderly transaction of this hearing. No person has the right to present irrelevant, immaterial, or incompetent testimony. No person except for the applicant or their representatives may speak in excess of 3 minutes unless permission has been requested and received by the chair. The applicant and their representatives will be given collectively up to 20 minutes unless otherwise requested and allowed by the chair. It is necessary to determine the qualifications of the commission to act as decision makers in this matter. Does anyone have any reason to abstain or need to disclose any personal bias, ex parte communications, or conflicts of interest? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to challenge the qualifications of any member of this commission? Pursuant to ORS 197-763 and ORS 197-796, the following points are required to be read into the record. The applicable criteria that apply to this decision are listed in both the staff report and the appeal notice and may further be explained or clarified during this hearing. Testimony and evidence must be directed toward the identified criteria or criteria in the county's zoning ordinance or state statute or rule, which the person believes to apply to this decision. Failure to raise an issue with significant specificity to afford the planning commission and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Any party at this hearing has a right to request a continuance of this hearing in response to the Planning Commission will either continue the hearing to a date certain or leave the record open for at least 7 days in accordance with ORS 197-763-6. Pursuant to the provisions of section 660.06, the county planning zoning ordinance, failure of the property owner to receive notification shall not invalidate the proceedings because good faith effort was made to notified persons entitled to the notice based on the record and the Department of Records and Assessments which were utilized. The order of this hearing is as follows. First, we'll have a staff report. Then we will hear from the applicant. Then those in support or opposition of the appeal. First hearing from those present in the room, followed by any person wanting to testify remotely. Then any interested public agencies, the applicant's rebuttal, if any, not to exceed 10 minutes, and finally questions from decision makers. At that point, the hearing will be closed and no further testimony or argument will be allowed unless the hearing is continued. The Planning Commission will then deliberate and either make a decision or continue the hearing to a date certain and finalize the decision at that time. Are there any questions concerning the procedural rules that I have covered? If not, we will hear from staff. Eric?
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. As mentioned, we're here tonight to consider an appeal filed by Tammi Packer, the planning director's decision conditionally approving her land use application to modify her existing farm stand permit, which was issued by the county originally in 2016. The property involved is located on the west side of Thompson Road, approximately a half mile south of the intersection of Fir Mountain Road, and is zoned exclusive farm use, high value farmland. The property, which is approximately 17.5 acres, contains a single family dwelling, an approximately 6,800 square foot barn containing the farm stand, as well as several other structures located primarily on the eastern third of the property. In the exclusive farm use zone, a farm stand is identified in statute as an outright allowed use, often referred to as a sub 1 use, subject to the requirements of Oregon Revised Statutes 215, 283, sub 1O, as well as Oregon Administrative Rule 660, Division 33, Section 130, subsection 23. Before you is a sheet. It contains the state administrative rules and statutes that apply to farm stands, and so you have that in front of you, and you can refer to it as the hearing goes on. So these statutes and rules include several provisions intended to guide how farm stands are established and operate. The provisions can really be boiled down into three main requirements or allowances, depending on how you look at it. One, a farm stand includes one or more structures designed and used for the sale of farm crops and livestock that are either grown on the farm operation or grown on the farm operation and other farms within the local agricultural area. Two, farm stands are also allowed to sell retail incidental items and to offer fee-based activities that promote the sale of farm crops and livestock sold at the farm stand, but only if the amount of money that is made selling those items or offering those activities does not exceed 25% of the total annual sales of the farm stand. And then three, the farm stand cannot be designed for occupancy as a residence or designed for activities other than the sale of farm crops and livestock. And it does not include structures for intended for banquets, public gathering, or public entertainment. So in addition to these three primary requirements, the administrative rules also provide several statements of clarification. For example, it defines local agricultural area as all of Oregon and adjacent counties in an adjoining state, which in our case would include Klickitat and Skamania counties in Washington. The administrative rules also clarify the term farm crops and livestock to include both fresh and processed farm crops grown, again, either on the farm operation alone or grown on the farm operation and other farm operations in Oregon or adjoining counties in another state. Finally, the administrative rule authorizes counties to require evidence of compliance with the annual sales requirement, aka the 25% incidental sales standard, which would consist of an IRS tax return transcript and then quote any other information the local jurisdiction may require. So the rule provides the county a fair amount of leeway when it comes to ensuring that the income requirements included in the law are met, which is important to note as we progress through the appeal conditions. Although the appellant and her team have not yet provided too many details as of writing this narrative, specific reasons for the appeal, they did state that the director's decision misconstrued and improperly divided local and state laws as well as case law, specifically the court case Brentmar versus Jackson County. And as part of that case, the Oregon Supreme Court concluded that uses listed under ORS 215-283 sub 1 are allowed by right, and the county may not enact or apply additional criteria of its own that supplement those found in statute. And as explained in the December 1st appeal summary, staff noted that it is very aware of the requirements under Brentmar. And in fact, we worked very closely with County Land Use Council to make sure that the director's decision did not impose additional requirements beyond those required in state law. However, it's also important to understand what is not required under Brentmar. For instance, the Brentmar case does not prevent a county from adopting and applying siting or design standards to sub 1 uses like building setbacks or parking requirements. Plus, the case does not prevent a county from using discretion in interpreting mandatory standards to ensure that applicable state laws are met. The ability to interpret the criteria is absolutely required because the criteria for farm stands are not uniformly clear and objective, and contain multiple terms and phrases that are not well defined and require at least some level of interpretation. And so staff has done the best as it can with support of County Land Use Council to make a decision that is clear and defendable under the law. And given the subjectivity, it's also important to note that staff attempted to bring the appellant and the primary objector together to work through some of these issues currently under appeal with the hope that common ground could be found within the confines of the law. And unfortunately, those efforts were not overly successful. And so here we are tonight attempting to work through those legal issues given the application before us and the applicable requirements involved. So with all of that said, the appellant has identified 10 conditions of approval that are being challenged as part of this appeal. And with respect to time, I don't plan to address each of these appeal conditions individually, but we'll focus on 3 that staff believes are the most notable. As for the others, I will defer to the staff report and the appeal summary and also be available for questions that they come up. So the first noteworthy condition being appealed is condition number 3, which contains 4 subparts A through D, although only subsection 3B and 3C were identified as being appealed. Broadly speaking, condition 3 of the whole requires that the appellant provide the county with an annual written report to confirm that no more than 25% of the gross annual sales from the farm stand were derived from incidental sales from the previous year. It is staff's assumption that the main issue concerning condition 3B is the requirement that admissions and fees collected from hosting promotional events be counted as incidental income. The reason that admissions is identified as an incidental income is based on the requirements in both state statute and rule, which explicitly state that fees from promotional activities and events must be counted as incidental income. However, as part of the application, the applicant proposed to bifurcate income, admission, memberships, and annual passes into 2 categories based on farm products being provided in exchange for those fees. For instance, if a farm stand charges $25 to enter a tulip festival, and in exchange the customer receives $20 worth of tulips, then the applicant proposes that that $20 of the fee be counted as farm income, while the additional $5 would be counted as incidental income. Staff received arguments in opposition to this proposal. And in considering all arguments and after consulting with County Land Use Council, staff concluded that in its most basic form, admissions simply allow a person to engage in a fee-based activity, which state law clearly intends to be treated as incidental income. The fact that a farm stand operator may also provide a farm product to the person paying the fee does not automatically convert that fee into a payment for the farm product, especially if the customer is not given the option to say to decline the $20 worth of tulips and only pay the $5 admissions. And so for these reasons, staff concluded that condition 3B in its current form provided the most legally defensible position given the explicit wording in state statute and rule. Under condition 3C, staff assumes the main issue being appealed are 1, the requirement that all baked goods sold be considered incidental items unless the appellant demonstrates that more than half of the ingredients used to make them are sourced from local farm products. And 2, the requirement that individual baked goods be counted as incidental income unless sold in bulk, which would be large enough to serve at least 8 people. So the purpose of this condition is simply to ensure that products sold from the farm stand can be accurately identified as either farm products or incidental sales items. Unlike fresh fruits and vegetables and livestock, and even many types of processed farm products, which can be easily identified as a local farm products, baked goods in many instances are less obvious. Now, certainly a pumpkin pie and a cherry pie, that's pretty obvious, especially given the type of farm products that are grown in the valley. However, for other types of baked goods, say a cookie or a cinnamon roll, it is less obvious. Furthermore, even if baked goods contain some local farm ingredients, it's also important to know how much of that product is actually made from those ingredients. So if, for instance, the chocolate chip cookie is made with a small amount of locally sourced ingredients, is that enough to qualify as a viable farm product given the requirements of state law? It seems reasonable to assume that processed farm products containing more incidental items, those not derived from the local agricultural area, than farm ingredients should be treated as incidental items or the opposite. Otherwise, the business could be allowed to operate more as a rural bakery than as a bona fide farm stand. For these reasons, staff concluded that condition 3B is necessary, especially in this instance where the appellant's farm stand sells a large variety and amount of baked goods that can hug the line between viable farm products and incidental food items. The second part of of condition 3C talks about the differences between the sale of baked goods, either individually or in bulk. The reason that this is important is because of the requirement under the administrative rule, which precludes prepared food items from being sold and counted as farm products. Now, prepared food items are usually pretty easy to identify. Basically, anything that's put on a plate, served in a glass, or otherwise sold for immediate consumption, like an ice cream cone. What is less clear are certain processed farm products that are prepackaged but sold with the intent or likelihood of them being consumed on site, such as a single cookie or a caramel-covered apple. To address this issue, the appellant proposed the idea of using bulk sales as a way to distinguish between processed farm product sold primarily for on-site consumption and those to be consumed off-site. The appellant proposed that 3 or more individual items would equate to an allowable farm sale as a bulk item, while other items sold individually or in pairs would be counted as a prepared food item. And overall, staff supported the appellant's proposal, but felt that the number of individual items that would comprise a qualifying bulk sale was a bit too low. As explained in the director's decision, staff found that selling baked goods and other products in single portions and ready to eat will result in them being consumed immediately, regardless of the number sold, especially given a number as small as 3. If bulk sales are expected to limit on-site consumption, they need to be sold in a larger size, such as a whole pie instead of individual hand pies, or to sell them in a single container with a large enough quantity that they are unable to be eaten by an individual or a small family. And so staff used a standard 9-inch pie, which serves approximately 8 people as an approximate gauge to determine what qualifies as either a bulk item, which would be eligible as a farm product for which there is no income limit, or an incidental item subject to the 25% income limit. And so for these reasons, staff concluded that condition 3C is necessary to ensure that prepared food items are appropriately counted as incidental income as required by state law. So the next and final noteworthy condition or conditions being appealed are conditions 7, 8, 10, and 11, all of which concern on-site structures intended to be used in conjunction with the approved farm stand. And I don't plan to spend a lot of time addressing 7, 8, and 10, other than to say that they require one of 2 things. They require building permits to be obtained for work already completed involving structures used by the public as required by the state building code, and or they preclude certain structures from being used by the public in certain ways given state statute and rule, which specifically preclude farm stand structures from being designed for, quote, activities other than the sale of farm crops and livestock, and for banquets, public gatherings, or public entertainment. I do, however, want to focus on condition 11, which requires that all temporary and permanent place structures either be removed from the property or made inaccessible to customers of the farm stand. Since approximately 2020, the appellant has developed and operated a large, approximately 1.5 acre playground comprised of over 20 structures placed permanently and seasonally to entertain guests of the farm stand. And on the surface and without any context, this condition probably seems unnecessarily and overly strict. Staff does not necessarily disagree, although it's important to explain why this condition was ultimately deemed necessary. As noted, both state law and rule preclude farm stand structures intended for certain activities, including, quote, public entertainment. As noted earlier, the law does not provide definitions for several key terms, in this case, structure or public entertainment. And so we are left trying to define exactly what those terms mean and how the law is intended to be applied. In this case, we get some clarification from a 2013 court case called Greenfield versus Multnomah County. As part of this case, the Court of Appeals concluded that an activity or event occurring outside of a farm stand, such as a corn maze, is permissible as a promotional activity. However, the construction or placement of a structure, such as a viewing platform next to the corn maze, is not permissible. This example provides some helpful distinctions. So based on this court case and the explicit language in state law, the appellant's playground, which contains multiple structures that are specifically designed and used for entertaining the public, is not allowed, and therefore condition 11 as written is justified. In conclusion, staff finds that based on this information provided as part of the summary, as well as the findings of fact and conclusions of law, as part of the original staff report dated July 11th and a staff appeal summary dated December 1st. The director's decision to conditionally approve the Packers farm stand application is based on solid findings that are supported by county ordinance and state law, as well as applicable case law. And so for these reasons, staff recommends that the planning commission uphold the director's decision to conditionally approve the farm stand application and deny the appeal. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Packers?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm eager the time, so
Oh, you're the time.
I got 5 minutes, it'll be a nice twinkle ding.
Yeah. I want to drone on and on.
Elaine
Yeah.
Elbridge.
Elaine, are you gonna need more than 20 minutes?
I hope.
Okay.
Yeah. Good evening. For the record, my name is Elaine Albridge. I'm outside counsel for Packer Orchards and Tammi and Mary Packer. I'm with Davis Wright Tremaine. My address is 560 Southwest 10th Avenue, Suite 700 in Portland, 97201. With me tonight on our team is Carolyn Zillick, also with DWT and the Packer family. We've got Tammi and Larry, Rochelle, John, and Jennifer Packer. We've got Teddy Weber and baby Colby with us tonight. So thank you for having us. This is a very important meeting for us, and we appreciate your time and attention to it. Overview of our presentation tonight. Before you, you've got a binder that includes our hearing submittal. You'll find our letter, which provides our more detailed legal arguments to support the proposed modifications to conditions that are in our appeal, as well as proposed red lines for the conditions. You've got a copy of our deck that we're sharing with you tonight. And then in tab 1 is a copy of all of the proposed conditions in the director's decision with proposed red line. Packer Orchards has actually refined its appeal to only challenge 7 of the conditions out of the 28. And then you'll find additional information of supporting documentation to support the argument. So I'll refer to that as we go through the deck tonight. This is a quick agenda of what we're hoping to discuss. But really, I want to start here with a family legacy of Packard Orchards. Packard is the 5th generation family farmers in the Hood River Valley. They have been farming and growing a variety of farm crops across 160 acres, and you'll hear more about their operations tonight. And for over, I love this picture of Tammi selling fruit out of the back of her pickup truck. And for over 10 years, the farm stand has offered supplemental income to the farming operation and the family. First off, I want to start by saying we appreciate staff's time and effort in this case because the record is massive and this proceeding has been ongoing for a long time. So I just want to say thank you. I understand the effort that has gone into this and the attempts at trying to reach a consensus. And unfortunately, despite efforts, consensus was not possible in this case, which to me, I generally strive to meet in the middle, and this one was just a hard one. So we understand that the director decision, approved the farm stand, but the conditions that we're appealing tonight are unreasonably restrictive. And they are extremely problematic to the Packer family. We're here tonight with a few different proposed solutions to address the problematic conditions that will make them workable for Packer Orchards, and we hope that it will also make them workable for the county. This appeal has significant consequences for the economic viability of Packer Orchards farming operation and the Packer family. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here tonight. We put a considerable amount of time into this. And the appeal issues that you'll hear about tonight really fall into 4 categories. The first is defining processed farm crops. We can get through that probably pretty quickly. The second is addressing this bulk packaging test and the distinction between the new concept of prepackaged food items versus the state and state statute and rule language of prepared food items. The third relates to the reasonable use of structures and tents, as was mentioned. And the fourth then goes to the heart of really what Packer Orchards is about, is an accessible, family-friendly place for children to learn about farming, animals, and where their food comes from. This is a quick slide to summarize applicable law. Staff went over it fairly in the staff report. The farm stands are allowed use in the farm zone, subject to the standards that are set forth in statute and administrative rule. There's 3 kind of keystone cases tonight that form the basis of our legal arguments. It's not just Brentmar, but it's the follow-along case from Lane County, the LCDC, and then also Greenfield. Ultimately, these legal authorities require that the Hood River zoning ordinance must be implemented consistent with applicable state law, regardless of the plain language of the code. I want to go quickly through parsing language that you'll see in the various conditions. This is comes from the ORS and OAR language. We have farm products, which is kind of the overarching category that is comprised of fresh farm crops and processed farm crops. These are crops that are grown on the farm itself or grown on other farm operations in the local agricultural area. And in shorthand, kind of throughout our materials, we reference farm products grown in the local agricultural area as assuming it includes the farm and other farming operations in the area. Processed farm crops is also defined in the state law. It includes an enumerated list of items and includes an also catch-all of other similar farm crops that have been processed and converted into another product, but not prepared food items. And that is, again, another term that's included in state law. And we go looking at what a prepared food item is, and it's undefined really in state law, but we can look to Oregon Health Authority standards at the opposite of what packaged is versus prepared, and saying packaged does not include wrapper, carryout boxes, or other non-durable containers, that containerize food for the purpose of facilitating food protection during service and receipt of food by the consumer. So it's like, so we're going to talk more about that. And Greenfield recognizes, and I think we have consensus around that, prepared food items may be sold as incidental items and captured in incidental sales. Incidental sales is another term you'll hear about. Incidental sales is how we use to refer to incidental items as well as fee-based income. So we'll talk more about that. Structure is a key term here tonight. This is the structure that's designed and used for the sale of farm crops, including the sale of retail incidental items. It expressly by state law cannot be used for residential occupancy and cannot be used for banquets, public gatherings, or public entertainment. Okay, issues of concern and proposed solutions. So we're really only disputing about a couple of things tonight. Processed farm crops, what qualifies as a farm crop for purposes of the income test? Applicant agrees with the director decision in using what is called the 50% ingredients by volume test. That is currently proposed in the conditions of the decision, we offer some revisions to refine it and clarify it, but in concept, we think the 50% ingredients by volume test is workable, and it's within the county's discretion under the OAR, particularly the new subpart F that was recently adopted by LCDC, allowing the county to require any other documentation it requires to prove up the 25% cap threshold. So we find that this use of this test is reasonable to distinguish what is a processed farm crop versus a non-qualifying processed farm crop that must be included in incidental sales. Pretty much everything at Packer Orchards is a processed farm crop and can be demonstrated that it meets the 50% ingredients by volume test. There are a few exceptions. And the second big issue is prepared food and how to determine whether an item is intended for on-site consumption. This matters because the items it's intended to be consumed on site, and it's important of like, who do we look at for the determining the intent of this? We are proposing a different test than what is in the director's decision, and we're calling it the sealed USD label test to make a bright line test to demonstrate which prepackaged items are intended to be sold as processed farm crops and distinguish between prepared food items that are intended to be sold, conveyed to the customer to be eaten on site and enjoyed on site. We think the baked goods bulk test or the bulk packaging test or however you want to define it is arbitrary and unreasonable, and we don't think 8 items per package is within the county's discretion to impose. And frankly, our proposal to use the bulk test for 3 items was in response to concerns that we weren't getting there with staff to overcome that hurdle. So this is a new concept that we think it offers a clear, objective perspective for determining whether something's in a prepared food item or out and considered a processed farm crop. So we'll talk more about that. And then the third is structures, is how can they be used? We firmly believe that casual open seating under tents or within barn stand structures is not prohibited by the plain language of the statute or the rule. This type of activity does not amount to what the legislature intended when it said banquets, public gathering, or public entertainment. Another major issue for us is the play activities and the child play equipment. These are not structured, and we'll talk further about why they are allowed. Our goal tonight before you for proposing these revised conditions is to ensure that they're verifiable, consistent, and fair. We had Hood River County in mind, Packer Orchards in mind, and the community in mind when we were proposing these modifications for your consideration to try to hit the mark such that these conditions can be in place for folks to know that the operations are being accountable to the conditions and that the conditions are enforceable. So with that, I'll turn you to tab 1 and we can talk through the proposed red lines for the conditions. Condition 3, as staff noted, is a major condition for us that we're seeking revision for. There may be a lot of red line here, but really it boils down to a couple of key concepts. So the first revision here is in the prelude section. This goes to what it amounts to an incidental fee for admissions. We're going to talk more about that under 3B. But for 3A, we're talking about farm products and determining what amounts to a processed farm crop that may be included in the farm sales and does not need to be included in the 25% incidental cap. Our proposed language is to create this sealed USDA test such that any package, any prepackaged item that includes a USDA sealed label on it is a processed farm crop and that it has been verified under the 50% ingredient by volume test. We think that this is a reasonable approach to be able to demonstrate things like the bread, packaging and the empanadas, that those are products that are made with farm crops, either from the farm operation or from the local agricultural area. Incidental sales. With these revisions, we are in no way trying to skirt, including items that need to be captured in incidental sales. We have gone to great lengths to define the nature of Packer Orchard's activities that are occurring at the farm stand. That was one of the issues that we were responding to, was a request by staff and by the community to be more concrete about what activities are happening on the farm, when they're happening, and what is the scale and intensity of use. And so we really try to define those in the application to put bookends around the operations. So what we are asking for in revisions to 3B is to get rid of this concept of the prepackaged food items and the bulk test. We want the county to look at whether an item is a prepared food item intended for on-site consumption. And we believe that the sealed USDA label test can demonstrate that intent. Packer Orchard packages processed farm crops in accordance with Oregon Health Authority safety and public health standards. They have a food safety permit to do this packaging, and that all of these packaged items must be stamped with a USDA label. The action of going through that process to package according to OHA and put a USDA label on it in order to be able to sell it at the door from the cash register is a reflection of Packer Orchard's intent that this food is not to be consumed on site. This is a product that they are selling. These are products that can get shipped. These are products that customers can buy, and then they can walk out the door. What the customer does when it walks out the door after a purchase of the product is not reflective of Packer Orchard's intent. Packer Orchard does intend to sell foods that can be consumed on site. There is a whole category of that. There's ice cream, there's coffees, there's milkshakes. There's other items throughout the season that are intended to be prepared food items and captured under incidental sales. Those are items, though, that are really sold to the customer, provided to the customer. They're offered to the customer in a different way than buying a prepackaged item at the cash register. And so that's what we're trying to distinguish here with the incidental sales items, is create a distinction of what is a prepared food that needs to be captured and what is a farm product that Packer Orchards is selling under its USDA label and sending it out the door. At Packer Orchards, if a customer does eat a single cookie on site or does eat an empanada, Packer Orchard is not facilitating the consumption of that food on site. It does not heat the product, serve the product on a plate, put it in a bag, for eating or anything like that. That's just separate. They do that for other food items, but those are the prepared food items that we talked about. So we think that this bright line sealed USDA label test eliminates the need for the bulk packaging test to determine whether prepackaged baked goods are intended for on-site consumption. We think there could be more of a bright line there. One item, I wanted to just highlight this because there are a couple of items that don't qualify as processed farm crops that may be packaged goods. One of those examples is the honey roasted peanut butter. This is a non-qualifying farm crop. A fudge was another example that's in the record, that there was a lot of discussion about fudge. So those are examples of products that cannot meet the 50% ingredient by volume test and are recognized then as needing to be captured in incidental sales. Another item we wanted to discuss, which actually was well described in the staff report, and this is just a disagreement on how we think this should be applied, is we do think that there should be a distinction between the amount of an emissions fee attributable to a farm crop that's provided to a customer as a part of their emissions versus the delta of the fee, that's an entrance fee and captured as an incidental sales. We think that this distinction makes good sense. It also affirms greenfield, which gives the farm operator control over pricing, promotion, and marketing of farm crops. We think it's the farm operator's right and authority to establish how it wants to promote and price the farm crops. That's not the role of the county. We think that it's easy to track, that the record keeping can distinguish the proportion of administrative admission fees that are attributable to a farm crop like tulips versus the delta of the fee that's attributable to essentially extra income for the farm. How am I doing on time?
Oh, you got a minute and a half left.
Okay,
But you're fine.
okay, thanks. The other item with incidental sales, we have no problem with this. We just wanted to show off Packer's products because we think they're great. So we've got other non-consumable items such as t-shirt, mugs, bags, and the like. And we do recognize that the season passes or the fall membership passes are captured in incidental sales. So that's where the split is in the admission fees. Is we recognize that the passes being sold are captured as incidental sales, but it is that specific farm crop item given away as part of the admissions fee that we want to capture in farm income and not have it count towards incidental sales. This is a thing that Packer Orchard does in order to get people's interest in coming to the farm and making sure that farm crops are being sold in association with the fee-based promotional activities, which we think is the whole purpose of the rules anyways. So condition C3, it looks like we revised this language quite a bit, but what we're really trying to do here is clarify what of Packer Orchard's processed farm crops we have requested be already determined to meet the 50% ingredient by volume test. As a part of the application and as a part of the ongoing compliance, Packer Orchard has provided considerable documentation to demonstrate that lists of the products that they sell through the farm stand qualify as processed farm crops under the 50% ingredient by volume test. And so we'd like that to be documented in this decision, that those items that we've already essentially proved up don't need to be proved up again and be continued to be sold. And the new language does then recognize that reporting pre-approval and documentation is required for any new processed farm crops that were not previously provided for review and approval. So that's the intent of the revisions in C, is just to create those two distinctions and to keep the requirement that there is a review and approval process to document and prove up the processed farm crops. We have no problem with that. At the end of 3C though, we do strike this language that goes to really the heart of the bulk packaging problem for us. We think that prepackaged food items that qualify as processed farm crops that have the USDA label and were packaged per the OHA packing requirements, whether it be a single item, 3 items, 8 items, a dozen items, it doesn't matter. It reflects the intent of Packer Orchard that these not being included as prepared food items. These are they wouldn't go through the process of packaging them if they intended them to be consumed on site. It's expensive to package these and label these and get them ready to go out the door. And if they were trying to have them sold to customers coming on the property, they'd sell them from behind the counter like they do with the ice cream. So I think that's for us, that's a pretty easy way to look at whether there's an intent to be consumed on site. And finally, we didn't have any changes to condition 3D. This is the annual reporting requirement, and we're happy to do this to demonstrate ongoing compliance. Any questions on condition 3 before I shift to the second, sort of the second category structures?
We'll cover that at the end.
Yeah, later.
Okay. Thank you. So next we're going to turn to conditions, conditions 7 and 8 related to structures. These we think are cleanup, proposed red lines to conform, 7 and 8. One, to make them consistent with each other, to require the same type of timing for pulling building permits. We're fine pulling building permits for this. We do want to clarify though that the state statute and rules do allow farm stand structures, and they allow more than one structure to sell incidental items as long in the structure, as long as there is also the sale of farm crops. So that's what this proposed revision does in condition 7 and 8, is to make that clarification that you can't sell incidental items without selling farm crops. Those two go together. The other item we're looking to correct in here, and this is really, I think, coming down to what is a policy choice by the county from a planning commission's perspective, is making a determination that casual open seating in these types of structures does not amount to public gathering, public banqueting, or public entertainment. And we just think that there is sufficient evidence in the record to demonstrate that these types of activities in these types of settings don't rise to the level of prohibited activity that the legislature was trying to prevent. And we talk more about that in our written submittal and give you some examples that were described in case law. So I'll refer you to that. Condition 10, this goes along with 7 and 8, being able to use temporary tents for seasonal and temporary offerings. We've redlined condition 10 to reflect this. These are locations that are represented on the 2025 site plan, and so that they are defined. These are areas that offer rest with casual open seating. They offer weather protection, and they're used by families and elderly. This is actually a photo of 3 generations having a little rest under that tent during the summertime. And the other photo is an example of a tasting activity that was being done at the farm for its products. And so our position is, the primary use of these locations is not for customer eating, and any eating act that's happening under the tent is de minimis and does not amount to a prohibited banquet. So we're trying to request some reasonableness here as it relates to these farm stand structures and the temporary tents. Okay, finally, getting to condition 11, which also goes along with the proposed red line in condition 13. This is a very important condition for Packer orchards. The director's decision requires Packer to remove all temporary and permanent play area and equipment. We think this is an incredibly hard blow for Packer Orchard, and it goes to the heart of the family-friendly farm. These photos illustrate the play areas and play equipment that we're talking about. This represents, the size and scale of what we see out there. These areas are also identified on the 2025 site plan, and so we've tried to define them and frame up where they are and how they're used. There's permanent play equipment that's smaller in intensity and has a smaller footprint, like the backyard play set, swing, sandbox, and some games. And then there is the temporary play activities that go along hand in hand with the promotional activities that is expressly allowed under Greenfield. And here are some other examples of the items. So there's some games, the hook ring toss. This is a kind of an educational set, one with an adult actually on the farm tractor. And so we look to the planning commission to rely on Greenfield to distinguish why these types of play areas and activities and equipment are not prohibited structures. This is distinct from the large corn maze that was the corn maze platform that was the subject of Greenfield. Greenfield talks about all other types of activities that can occur, that are play related, to temporary and permanent areas. And so we request that, the planning commission thoroughly consider this and accept our proposed language instead, which we find is a reasonable balance to still allow, the play equipment within bounds that we think is allowed under the law. Also, we provided in tab 6 a survey of other farm stands across the area, and tab 5 and tab 6 provide additional information about farm stands that are in Hood River, as well as Washington County, Marion County, and elsewhere. And they really demonstrate that these farm stands range in all sizes of operations, all size of scale. And we recognize what the county is trying to do here is find a good balance, for the county and be compliant with state law that it's required to comply with. But we think it's defensible for the county to adopt condition 11 as proposed, and we are willing to defend that all the way. These are other examples of the temporary and larger play activities that are for the Fall Fun Festival. There's a hay slide, combine slide, all these different types of activities for the kids to really bring people to the farm. In summary, I'm gonna save my time to not go through this for you, but you can look to the deck. Summary of the issues, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and thank you very much for that time to listen to all this.
Thank you, Lloyd. Anything else from the applicant? Okay, thank you. Those in either support or opposition of this appeal, first hearing from the people present in the room, followed by the people wanting to testify remotely. Is this here?
List of people have signed up.
Okay. All right. So this will be, you guys are going to be limited to 3 minutes, and if it's with the amount of people, I think if we're going to get repetitive, you can come up and just say, I agree with so-and-so, and we can go from there. Trudy Klingler.
Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony. My name is Trudy Klinger. I live at 3400 Weiss Road. There are two critical things not everyone may know. First, you don't have to have a farm to have a farm stand. A farm stand must sell something grown or raised on site, but the law does not specify how much or for how long. As Director Walker has explained in other settings, you can put 3 blueberry bushes out back and get a farm stand permit. Second, land use laws apply to everyone the same, regardless of ownership. An EFU landowner with 8 acres, the Packers with over 100 acres, or an investment conglomerate whose shareholders have never set foot in Hood River County, all the same. What one can do, everyone can do. Anyone can buy exclusive farm use land, EFU for short. Let's call the buyer Juggernaut Incorporated, that investment conglomerate. If you uphold the staff's decision, what can Juggernaut Incorporated and Packer Orchards do with a farm stand permit? Both can, 1, sell fresh and processed farm crops grown anywhere in Oregon, like it happens in many counties without limit. 2, have up to 25% of sales be things unrelated to Oregon agriculture, even things that compete with Oregon agriculture. 3, have events that promote the sale of crops sold at the farm stand. The decision lists 25 events for Packer. In short, a farm stand can already operate far beyond what most people think of when they hear the term. Still, those liberal allowances are an existing statute and county code, and the director's decision supports that. We urge you to approve that decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Robeck.
Chris Roebuck, like Sears. 43 Barrett, speaking on behalf of Rapid River. The director's position in this case follows the letter and intent of the farm stand statute. In contrast, the applicant's proposals will create excesses and essentially a new set of rules. There's two problems with that. First, the county decisions have to adhere to state law. The county planning staff and the county planning commission don't have the ability to grant exceptions that would violate those laws. Second, having a unique set of rules for the county staff and future applicants in an impossible situation. Suppose, for example, that you decide to allow play structures designed for entertainment, so long as they are small. The application asks for 29 play structures spread over an acre and a half. You'll be putting the planning staff in the position of defining small. Outside of state law. As Judy mentioned, you don't have to have a farm, get a farm stand permit, and what one landowner can do, everyone can do. So if the rule is proposed by the applicant, Juggernaut Inc. could maybe 25% limit on this down sales, and be able to farm land for entertainment venues, restaurants, grocery stores, bakery outlets, on and on and on. We provided you written testimony tonight that details the legal justification for upholding each condition of the county staff's decision. And we urge you to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. John Wood,
I think I'll yield.
Jeff McCaw. I think is it Jeff McCaw?
Thank you, commissioners, for hearing me. My name is Jeff McCaw. I live at 4127 Summit View Way here in Hood River, and then also own a business, Printed Sign Media, at 1820 Cascade Avenue here in Hood River. I'm here to support Packer Orchards. They're a very important customer for me as a business owner of over 35 years in this county. We do a lot of signage for them. They do a lot of, it's not just signs like most businesses, they do a lot of educational signs. Things from like how do bees pollinate. I mean, I'd say 90% of the signs they do for them are educational of how they help the kids and parents and anyone that comes to learn about farms. And then, I mean, who doesn't have their kids or their grandkids have the Packer Orchards and gone through and used and enjoyed that time and created memories there over many, many, many years. The schools use Packer Orchards for pumpkin patches to all kinds of amazing things, and all for educational and getting the kids out and learning things that they wouldn't. Yeah, so I mean, in short, like as a business owner, they bring so much outside to the communities. The people that they bring funds to our community that support other businesses, and it helps our community grow. I mean, it just seems like listening to all those things, and as business owners, and it just feels like there's so many regulations, like that whole list there was just mind-boggling. If I had to step through half as many of those, I mean, I have all the regulations I step through. It's just overwhelming. I just ask for some help and support. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mike McCarthy.
Caravan Lipkin and Commissioners. My name is Mike McCarthy, 5965 Bolingborough Road, Buckdale. I represent Ag for Oregon. Ag for Oregon is a statewide organization of farmers and ranchers It was started in 1983 by Hector McPherson, who was a dairyman that brought Senate Bill 100 to the legislature. And we have continued this organization. We advocate for conservation of our EFU lands for production agriculture for present and future generations of Oregonians. We are very concerned about the amount of non-compliance in the farm zone. The farmland decision before you is an extremely professional, legally valid, and well-researched finding. Ag for Oregon asks you to support the decision of the planning department. It is our belief that the purpose of farm stands is, as the state law states, for the sale of farm crops and livestock grown on the farm and grown on other farms in the local area. Although it's sometimes difficult to understand the reasons behind the law, this one is fairly straightforward. The purpose of the farm zone is to produce crops and livestock. The purpose of the farm stand is to sell predominantly those crops and livestock grown on the farm. As soon as you get very far from the simple uses that one thinks of as a farm stand, you're asking for another type of a permit or even a zone change. For uses other than simple farm stands, there's a lengthy list of negative, unintended consequences to the zone that are far too numerous to go into tonight. I ask you to support the decision of the planning department. Thank you.
Thank you. Rochelle Packer.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Rochelle Packer. I live on Devon Ridge. I am the eldest daughter of Tammi and Larry Packer. I'm here to share a bit of our family story and ask you to revise the conditions as requested so that our farm will continue to operate as it has for more than 10 years. My family has been farming in the Hood River Valley for 5 generations since the 1920s. For most of that time, we were strictly an orchard business. My parents grew, harvested, and sold fruit, and for decades, that was enough to sustain a family. But like many farms in Oregon, we eventually faced a hard reality. The orchard alone could no longer support future generations. My mom recognized that early on. Using the fruit that my dad grew, she began making baked goods and preserves. We started as a few family recipes, grew into a bakery business, not because we wanted to be something different, but because we needed to grow in order to survive. Once those products existed, we needed an outlet for them. For more than 20 years, we sold our fruit and baked goods at farmers markets all across Oregon, building relationships and keeping our farm going through difficult seasons. As our family expanded, so did our responsibilities. We needed room in the business for me, my siblings, and the next generations. That's when, in 2015, my parents purchased Rasmussen's, a farm that had been closed for some time but held enormous potential. Reopening our town's pumpkin patch and creating farm-centered experiences was not a shift away from agriculture, it was just a natural extension to it. We planted new orchards, seasonal crops, and flowers, all of which became the foundation for activities that let families experience the farm in a new and meaningful way. Our evolution has never been about becoming something different. At our core, we are and always have been a family farm. We've simply adapted with the times, with the economy, and with the needs of our family and community. Every step of our timeline reflects one thing: a commitment to keeping our family rooted on this land and keeping this farm viable for the next generations. These activities also support our community. Packer Orchards provides local jobs, a lot of those to high school students. For many, it's their first opportunity to work with the public, learn responsibility, and gain hands-on agricultural experience. I respectfully ask you to amend the revised conditions as requested so that we can continue farming, continuing to operate our farm stand just as we have. Thank you for listening and thank you for the support.
Thanks, Rochelle. John Boss.
Good evening. I'm John Boss. I own Dutch Hollow Farms in Modesto, California. I live at 3304 Cypress Bay Lane, Modesto, California. And I came all the way from Modesto to support the Packer family in this. I also run an agritourism farm, which I do it in one of the most difficult counties of California to do business in. And I can tell you that we have lost lots of sleep over such things as what we're going through with the permitting process. I feel for Tammy. I got here today. This is my first time visiting Hood River, and it is absolutely beautiful out here. I would say it even outdoes California in certain areas. It is really amazing. And if you know agritourism like I do, you know that moms are always looking for something for their young children to do that costs them an affordable price. And that's what Packer Orchards and ourselves do. They are dying for stuff to do because the economy isn't all that cracked up what it is. And so moms are desperately looking for such items. They are the last bridge between agriculture and the concrete jungle. And if these kids do not learn off of these type of farms, then there's going to be a great disconnect in the future. So I would support Packer Farms.
Thank you. Jonathan Quigley.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Quigley. I'm a first-generation farmer from White Salmon, Washington. I run a organic apple orchard and pear orchard. I just wanted to start off by thanking you for your time. When I started making my cider 3 years ago, the Packers were the first place around here to support me in that effort. It's nearly impossible to get into the big stores around here. Safeway won't talk to you, Walmart won't talk to you. The farm stands are the one place that I've found that will actually support local businesses. By minimizing and reducing the amount of products that they're able to sell, you do directly impact their ability to continue on. And if we lose Packer Orchards, we lose not only Packer Orchards, but a viable outlet and one of the best outlets for local products in this state. I also represent, I'm serve on the Young Farmers and Ranchers Committee, which represents the largest body of young farmers and ranchers aged 18 to 35 in both Washington and Oregon. And I've talked about this extensively with people from my committee, and the dozens and dozens of young farmers have interacted over the past few months. These restrictions are not something that we would support. Also, over the past fall, I've been contacted by dozens and dozens of employees in the area looking for work. People are desperate for work. People are looking for work, and restricting the Packers further does nothing to help employers give hours, create hours, and keep people employed. I would request that you accept the revised conditions as requested, and please support Packer Orchards. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexandria Amick. She's gone. Okay. Tracy Dominguez.
We come up together, we'll speak separately.
Sure.
She's nervous, she's my dog.
Is Paige going to speak also?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, my name is Tracy Dominguez. I've lived in Hood River for almost 36 years. Tammy's my neighbor down the street. I live right on Thompson. So this is so fun and convenient for the kids to go to, us to go to. Everybody has fun. We go like every weekend. We buy a season pass. We go on the weekends. I go every weekend. She goes every day.
every day.
We really enjoy
Packers and the education that they give the kids. It doesn't cause any traffic, it doesn't cause any issues down our road. We support them 100%. I work with dementia residents and I take them on bus rides. And she's given them cookies. They're a very important part of our community. And we need to support them 100%. They're really great people and very hard workers. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and we hope you accept the revised conditions.
All right,
Thanks,
I'm
Tracy.
Dominguez. I also live on Thompson Road. I went to school with a couple of Tammy's kids. Like she said, we get the season pass every year since they've had it. We've gone since 2020, since my son was a baby. I have pictures from when it was just starting, and it's crazy to see the progression in it. Like I said, we go every day that they're open, obviously in the season, and then in Easter too. I take my son, and then my husband goes. We go, and I homeschool my son too, so we try to make it like a recess or a learning experience for him, whether it be like a pumpkin life cycle or if we go, sometimes we'll go 2 times a day if we're crazy, we love going there. It's also really safe. I can go there without my husband. I can, I feel safe just letting my son run and be free, and it's just, and he's asking to go. I mean, they've been closed for a little bit for the season, and he was asking to go yesterday, and we have to drive by to let him know they're closed, because he won't believe me when I tell him that they're closed. There's never any traffic, no noise issues. It would be really sad if these structures were taken out, because it would be a big loss to our community, to us, I think. So thank you for letting me.
Thank you. Amy, Maddie?
She left.
Oh, she left, okay. Chuck and Becky, Boogie?
Boy, does this bring back memories. New faces, same room, big decisions. I really appreciate the time you put in to this plan.
Chuck, you got your name and address.
I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Charles Boogie, 3481 Earphill in Mid Valley. Thanks. And as I was saying, I really hope the board can look to the future as you're making these decisions, because the growth we're seeing out in the Mid Valley area, what we read about and hear about, there's going to be a lot of changes probably in the future. We've been there over 30 years, and we've seen a lot of change just on our hill. Maybe someday we'll have sidewalks and flashing lights. But whatever we do, it's important that you're the leaders that can design the programs that move forward and allow businesses to thrive, as well as to respect the property owners and the other regulations that you have to follow. I think you're doing a great job on this. I really wish you well.
Thanks, Chuck. Scott, Frankie.
Good evening, Commissioner Scott Frankie, 4584 Leisure Drive, Mount Hood, Oregon. And I'm not sure quite what Mr. Boogie was pitching there. At one level, the worry about the future here is part of not letting things become overdeveloped, where the farmlands start to recede and these kind of adventures, like Packers have expanded to, become more the norm.
after buying the property from the Rasmussens, they applied for and were approved for a basic farm stand operation in September of 2016. We asked for using existing buildings to reopen and operate farm stand. You pick fruit, pumpkins, vegetables, flowers. We will be selling fruits and vegetables grown on this property and from our existing fruit orchards. Well, they have been out of compliance with what was approved from the beginning and have essentially been rewarded for their illegal behavior by allowing non-compliance until now. They've been charging admission, essentially operating a restaurant and an amusement park on farmland. They make plenty of money, as good orchards just do, and apparently as they used to in this county, where farm produce is by far the principal driver of our economy. Again, by doing just what they're allowed to do by law. Instead of, just farming, instead of having an illegal farm stand with that farming operation, they're running a large commercial operation that, maybe making some businesses like the gentleman, making posters for them improve, but also taking business away from, for instance, struggling restaurants who operate on relatively thin margins and don't get the tax breaks of farmers and have to pay the high cost of having those businesses where they're allowed in commercial zone. While bringing traffic and troubles that go with it to the surrounding agricultural neighbors, regardless of what Ms. Dominguez said as a nearby neighbor. And those excesses just really need to stop. Please affirm what the staff has done in limiting their approved operation to what is allowed by law. Thank you.
Dale Millen.
You mind if I just stand?
Go ahead.
More comfortable. Dale Milam, Highway 35 between Odell and Parkdale. I'm here apparently in a Hallmark movie. It feels like big government versus family farm. And I know Eric Walker over here and I've worked with him, but I appreciate the position that he and his staff are in because they've mentioned law multiple times and their job is to follow the law. So I appreciate that. They're in a hard position. At the same time, it feels like Oregon, probably other states, are overregulated. I wondered how many times, and council might be able to answer this to somebody, and I don't need to hear the answer now, but I wonder how much of the law you're having to follow is based on Oregon administrative rules, where potentially one person in the office disconnected from our community makes recommendations and somebody decides, oh, sounds like a good idea, and it becomes law. I would just encourage people to think a little bit about the concept put forward by one of the greatest legal minds in the United States, one of the Supreme Court justices, in a book called Overruled: The Human Toll of Too Much Law. It seems like here we have too much law going on and our staff are doing the best they can to follow that law, but it might be the law is in need of change. I have some pictures here from a school group. I'm a teacher here that we took to Packers, had a fabulous time. I don't know if it's appropriate to leave these here for anybody to look at. Don't know that it makes any difference to people, but it sure made a difference to our kids. You can see the joy and the fun that they had. Seems like there's enough room in what we do here in the county to actually help serve the people, not just the law. Thanks.
Thanks, Dale. Dan Thal.
Hi, I'm Dan Thal, 5541 Walter Road, Terrence neighbor, owner of Hood River Organic. I've been farming for 25 years, an orchard, and I wrote a little speech. I bounced off a fellow farmer before I came down, and he said, well, don't knock a farmer with a mouthful of food. And I said, I'm going to use that. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and read it. It says, farms in the Hood River County are blessed with natural beauty. Oh, I'm for the Packers, and I think they should have. And I also want to thank you, Eric Walker, too. And I think I trust that you did try to come to common ground, and I hope that you guys can circle back and hopefully try again to find some kind of common. Farms in the Hood River County are blessed with natural beauty and a wonderful community. Other Oregon counties like Wasco and Sherman would give their right arm to have the agritourism opportunities that we naturally have here. Packer Orchards is family friendly. Their pumpkin patches and hay bale slides and fields of flowers for the bees and the photo shops and the small play areas directly support agricultural sales and help sustain small local farms. Packing houses. And don't get me started on packing houses. Diamond and Duck Wall. We know, well, they make the money on the backs of us farmers here, and they should be allies in this. They should support farm stands and encourage these experiences, because when family farms get families to learn and appreciate the crops that we grow, everyone benefits. Think of it like Nike, right here in Oregon. I think it's a perfect metaphor. Tammy and Larry are like Michael Jordan. They're the athletes selling the apples and pears. We are farm stands. I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't have skin in the game. I don't have a farm stand. But you know, it's like American Pie, and just as Oregonian as the annual Ducks and Beavers Civil War football game, both donning Nike apparel for what? To sell Nike shoes. And the difference is we produce our product right here. And that's an important thing. And if you've read books like Freakonomics or The World is Flat, you know, I don't know how arbitrary this 25% rule is, but if it's 25% of what versus what the packing house gives us, and I'm not being hyperbolic here, but the trajectory of that is pretty terrible. And maybe that should be revisited, because if you want to protect the family farms, and I don't want to be back here 10 years from now telling you guys I told you so, but we don't allow the diversification, I'm deviating. It's an example of a win-win with having the hay bales and the pumpkins and the fields of flowers, the pollinators for the honeybees. It connects families and farms and inspires them to take home the crops that we grow. Hood River County is uniquely positioned for agritourism. The valley views, Mount Hood, the proximity to Portland and the Gorge makes it a destination. Farmers elsewhere in the country, they don't have the same natural beauty and the opportunities to create these experiences. We have a real golden goose here. My honest take, based on having read Greenfield versus Multnomah County and understanding Oregon Statute 215.283, is that the Packer Orchards aligns with the Oregon law. It's the future of agricultural reality. It aligns with our community values. It's common sense. It has precedence with Rasmussen. And I really think it's crucial for the economic survival of small farms, family farms. Before Bill Gates and Jeffrey Bezos are running everything, I mean, give the small guy a chance. Packer Orchards is.
Yeah.
Am I done?
I think we're a little over.
All right.
Thank you. I know you can go on. Is there anybody,
I think we should ask, I think there's a few other people who
is
want.
there anybody else who wishes to speak?
My name is Jim Edwards. I live at 3066 Thompson Road. I'm immediately adjacent to Packers. I'm actually surrounded on two sides of my property, about 50 feet away from my bedroom and living room, from their playground, which they refer to as small, and I'm telling you it is not small. I count 30+ play structures. In peak season, they can have hundreds of kids there screaming on playground equipment, slides, fire trucks. They previously mounted a cannon on top of the fire truck and would shoot candy out of it into my yard where my dog would eat all the chocolate candy. They say that they don't intend for people to eat their single packaged cookies on site. I have a yard with a bunch of trash with Packers logos on it that disagrees. They have had live music concerts charging $300 table fees in the past. They intend to have people pay admission to play on their large playground. They intend to provide public entertainment, and they intend to sell food that's eaten on site and not counted as incidental. I do not support them. I do support EFU land and farm stands. When the Rasmussens lived there, we were friends. I had Thanksgiving dinner with them. I bought stuff from their farm stand. They actually grew pumpkins. I don't think the Packers actually grow pumpkins. They ship them in. And then they claim that they're a farm stand when really they're selling admission to their playground. And then they're trying to mask the admission fees by linking it to a tulip that people don't want, and they won't allow you to buy an admission fee without the tulip. And so it makes perfect sense that the admission fee should count as incidental. It doesn't seem like they're hurting for money. In my recollection in reviewing their finances at a public record, I think they made $1.5 million last year. They don't need to make so much money in admission fees to a playground that is very negatively impactful to their immediate neighbors. Furthermore, I thought it was somewhere in the statutes that playgrounds are not allowed on EFU land. They clearly have a playground. I would even say it borders on an amusement park because they have sold nachos, corn dogs, they have the Easter bunny, they have live music. That not only sounds like an amusement or a playground to me, that seems more like an amusement park. And when you charge $20 to $300 for admission, that's not a farm stand, that's an amusement park. I think the decision that the county has made limits their ability to be a playground and amusement park and forces them to work more of the farm stand, which I think we would all love to see. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Anyone else?
I have photos to document anything I said.
Yeah, she was first. You're next, Deborah.
I'm Becky Rapton from Parkdale, Oregon. During the 2025 legislative session, the Department of Land Conservation and Development, DLCD, launched a rulemaking committee for farm stands. The 20 members of the committee were composed of farmers, land use organizations, and county planners. Sounds like a great idea to have a group like that. In attempting to make farm stand regulations that would be clear and straightforward across all of Oregon's counties, the committee focused on activities that promote the sale of farm products, promotional activities, and foods. The DLCD paused all rulemaking, which I know you're aware of, in late summer, early fall, I think it was, of this year, and thanked those that provided comment on farm stand rulemaking processes. At Governor Kotek's direction, the DLCD paused this rulemaking to reassess the next steps. The governor's remarks were the comments the DLCD and the governor's office have received are clear. Oregonians can care deeply about this complex issue and any potential unintended consequences of changing the existing rules. Rule number 1, they stated from our office, was citizen involvement, helping to ensure broad community engagement, and is the foundation of Oregon's unique comprehensive land use planning system. Farm stands and the opportunity to learn about farming, support farmers, maintain Oregon's agriculture economy are values shared across the state. The county, I believe, because the state has paused all rulemaking decisions and this group is pausing their thoughts, I believe that the county should also pause rulemaking that could seem targeted to this family and to other farms potentially until the state resumes the rulemaking committee. The state was several things they were discussing were allowing farm stands to sell product throughout the whole state of Oregon and surrounding communities, which would be white salmon, those kind of things. I think they talked about play structures in their rulemaking, and again, they're pausing that. So I believe the county should pause the rulemaking that could seem targeted until the state resumes their rulemaking and decides. Their whole point was that in several counties, these rules are interpreted differently, rules not laws, and that coming with a consensus from the state would give you all a better option in moving forward with that. If the state's committee rules in favor of the use of handles for structures, selling Oregon farming products, not just your own products, at any farm, then the county group, your own group, would have to re-rule on Packers. Packers complied with many of the variances and has worked with the county, at least from what I read from on the website yourselves, and you've stated that over the last several years. I think you should get in the room and rework those redefining things. My kids came when it was Rasmussen's. They bowled, with the pumpkins. They did all sorts of different things that they had little stands to be able to do. We could eat cookies on site. I think it's ridiculous to take those kind of things away from moms that want a place to take your kids outside and you can stay as long as you want. It's not an admission to amusement park. I'm not buying a ticket. I can buy cool-ups. I'm very thankful to do that, but I'm not riding a ride. I'm not going to the county's fair and having to buy a stupid ticket to ride a whole bunch of rides. They have a beautiful place. And for anyone that says that it's a restaurant, I think you should go visit it.
Thanks, Maggie. Deborah?
Hello, everyone. I gotta confess, when I came, I wasn't sure exactly what all would be involved, but I come as a mother and a grandmother. I appreciate the opportunity.
Deborah.
Sorry, Deborah Laraway,
Thank you.
2371 Old Dalles Road or Drive, Good River, 97031. I appreciate the opportunity to address the Hood River County Planning Commission on behalf of Packer Orchards, Larry and Tammi Packer, on their appeal to modify conditions of approval on the Packer farm stand so they can continue their family operations and support their family. My name is Deborah Laraway and my husband John Laraway are Hood River locals, and our families are pear orchardists off Highway 35 in the Pine Grove area. In 2026, Laraway and Sons will be celebrating a parcel of our orchards as a century farm, meaning 100 years of farming operations, and we are the 4th generation of growers. Our family has known the Packer family, myself 20 years, and John many more years by our associations in orchard operations, the Fruit Loop maps, the stands, community involvement, East Fire Department, churches, schools in Pine Grove, Odell, Parkdale, and Hood River. I will frequently take my granddaughter to the farm stand to purchase apple donuts and other food items sold on site and the seasonal farm events. Packer Orchard also offers a yearly membership upon which you can go over as many visits as you want and attend the special agricultural happenings of the different seasons on the farm. Packer Farm also offers a local discount, which is really a plus and helps support local shoppers. We also visit with the employees who we have grown to know and enjoy their attention to our businesses. At Packer Farm Stand, the play equipment is interactive with the children in the fact that it has explanations or games to play that shows parts of our farming practices. What we grow, the soil, the irrigation, the equipment used, all made up to have a fun agricultural lesson and the sale of value-added agricultural products from our farms. I asked my granddaughter her favorite agricultural activity when we visit, and she said all of it. The location, the play equipment, the animals, feeding them, the craft activities, the games, and who knew raw corn kernels is a wonderful sand pit to play in. Every visit to the Packer farm, she plays or tries all activities going on. I confess she is already a shopper and usually wants to buy something from the visit. I feel it's really vital for children to see where their food comes from, where and how it is grown, what it takes to manage our crops and fruit trees, and that food does not come from a grocery truck. That is just the delivery vehicle to the grocery store. Affordable, fee-based promotional activities are an important part of this as they engage the kids and teach them about farming or making food for what we grow. I got more stuff. The last thing I'll say is, unlike several of Hood River County's outdoor tourist attractions, Packer Orchard remains a place where everyone can go, regardless of economic status. You don't need to worry about paid parking, equipment rental, staying in a certain location, cost of the activity for each activity, and you're outside in our beautiful valley. It's important to keep businesses like this open so that all kinds of families can access fun outdoor activities. I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thanks, Deborah. Anyone else?
Did a few on Zoom,
Online, yeah.
online, yeah.
Thank you.
So we have some that are, or these are from online.
Okay. Michael Dehart.
Are we sure everybody had a chance that's here?
I just asked again. Do you want me to ask one more time?
No,
Okay.
it's good.
Twice.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, Mike Dehart, 7801 Baseline Road, Parkdale. So, yeah, I was listening to everybody talk, and the reason I sat through this meeting was not so much to defend Packers, but to just warn the Hood River from creating a precedent that play equipment is anything but just direct marketing for farms. It's, I think of it this way, like larger farms, they market through Diamond or whatever, but the smaller guys, they need the direct marketing. And with the playground equipment, it just seems like that's more of not so much as an entertainment thing, but just as a way for these small guys to sell pumpkins, you know? And so if you start really getting like a stickler on these rules, it's going to make it hard for the younger guys like me or, other young small farmers to sell different products and pairs, where we're not, say I'm selling something else, it's hard for me to market. So I just want to put my voice out there and say, hey, let's not create this precedent that this is going to, cause some big outfit to come in. This is really having us directly market agritourism is actually benefiting smaller guys. And that's it.
Thanks, Mike. Hillary Jensen.
Okay, thank you. That was a little bit of a delayed response there. You hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Hillary Jensen, and I live at 6181 Wilson Creek Road in Ellensburg, Washington. So your neighbor here to the north, always paying attention to what Oregon does, as it seems that Oregon and Washington oftentimes go hand in hand. And I have to say, I am a first generation farmer, agritourism operator here as well. And got started really late in life, just in my 30s. And it's only because I was given the opportunity to visit other agritourism farms, to be introduced to farming and see that that was a transition that I wanted to make. And that is something that I feel has really been missed in these discussions. Agritourism is the sole link between the next generation of farmer or the next farmer to come along and take the reins. It is the only thing that connects people to the crops, to the lands, to the animals, just to the occupation as a whole, and not just farming. Maybe one of those kids that visits is introduced to the farm equipment and he's your next diesel mechanic. Whatever it might be. But when we remove agritourism, we remove all connection, because traditional farming does not allow and is not set up for guests on the farm. So I think that this is honestly, my heart breaks sitting here and listening to this as a farmer. My husband and I, our mouths have been on the floor at the minutia and the regulation of which you're putting on Packer orchards, which I understand it's been said. And again, I do follow some of your state laws. I understand a lot of this is state law, of which then you have to uphold. But then that begs the question, how can we look around all the other areas of Oregon and other counties where people are allowed to do the very thing that Packer Orchards is doing? So clearly it's not a matter of state law. There are things that are open to interpretation. The gentleman who spoke on behalf of Egg Oregon, I believe it was, again, entitled to your opinion, but incredibly shocking that you don't see the Packer Orchards family as a link to the next farmer that continues to farm that farmland. It's one of those industries where the upcoming generations of current farmers aren't interested. They're going into other avenues. We need to have the next generation of farmer and to introduce them to farming. I think that we also hire the unhireable, right? I look around at our staff and who we're hiring and the opportunities that they get and the letters of references that we provide, the experience we provide, the learning ground, the things that they're able to learn that you are going to miss. So I'm truly heartbroken for the Packers, but I'm even more heartbroken for the community of Hood River. Listening, and again, as an outsider, it's almost like you're vilifying them for creating family opportunities, for creating a space for memories to be made, for creating a space for employment, for creating a space. I mean, gosh, you're even faulting them for the amount of money that they make. Did you look at their tax records on how much money they lost on any given year, whether it's an early freeze or a drought? We can all just pray to have a good year because we know it's not going to repeat itself year after year, but you vilify them even for that. You challenge them that they somehow have better margins than restaurants. Why would they not have the same margins than restaurants, or actually worse? Of the amount of insurance that we have to pay above and beyond what average places of business have to pay, such as restaurants. So at the very least, and I will wrap up in 2 seconds, I think at the very minimum, the person who asked for a pause that would go in line with the rest of Oregon State makes the most sense, but I 100% support Packer Orchards. And again, I thank you.
Thanks, Hillary. Emily Iverson.
Hi. Um, Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Emily Iverson, and I'm a third-generation family member for the Wooden Shoe Tulip Farm in Woodburn. I first want to just say, Hillary, I could not agree more with your statement. As a next-generation farmer, I think that agritourism and farm stands are the pathway. I would not be back on my family's farm if it was not for the farm stand that we currently have. Our family has been farming for over 75 years, and our farm stand and agritourism operation is one of the largest in the state. We opened our farm to the public for over 40 years ago, and we see about 150,000 visitors in a 2-month period. With that comes a great deal of experience navigating farm stand rules while maintaining a positive relationship with our county and community. This shift towards utilizing our farm stand permit over the years has been essential for our farm's survival, even while we're farming 1,100 acres. I know Tammy through collaboration in agritourism organizations and the close-knit farm stand community that has been established in this state. I have had the opportunity to visit both of her farm locations, and she has visited mine. Over the years, I've had many conversations with her about the challenges about balancing ag production, public access, and simply keeping the family operation going, especially to the next generation. I'm here today because I support her appeal of the recent land use decision and believe the revised conditions she's proposing are reasonable, lawful, and grounded in what real farms actually need to operate. One point I want to highlight is the Packers' approach to separating admission fees for different fee-based promotional activities. Not all farm stands look the same. Every farm grows different crops, operates in different scales, and I support the Packers' current process for admission. The way we structure admission at Wooden Shoe might look different from how they do. For our farm, our admission fee is actually leaving our crop in the field. Again, we grow tulips very similar to Packers. When a customer comes in, we say their admission is literally leaving the flowers in the field for everybody to enjoy. And that is a provision in which our county has agreed upon. From my own experience, having a well-designed admission system is crucial. Admission fees help cover very real costs, our crops, staffing, traffic management, safety, sanitation, I could go on. It's hard to open your farm to the public. It creates a safer guest experience for admission as well. I also just want to talk a little bit about the scale of Packers' operation. There are many farm stands across the state of all sizes, and the Packers are a very modest, smaller scale farm stand. Maybe not for Hood River, River, but for the rest of the state of Oregon. While small, she still has a significant positive impact for her community and local schools. The play equipment and attractions she offers are common throughout many agritourism operations in this state, and what she provides is significantly less than a lot of other farm stands. Her operation fits squarely within the purpose and intent of Oregon farm stand rules and have been interpreted by other counties in the state. From one family farm to another, I know agriculture is always the primary purpose of Packer's operation. I would hate to lose another multi-generational family farm and farmland in this state. So I want to thank you again for your time, and I really hope you recognize the importance of these issues to working farms and adopt the revised conditions that will allow Packer orchards to continue.
Thanks, Ellie. Ricky Ardars.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Ricky Armendariz. I'm with Cragg Law Center. Our address is 3141 East Burnside, Portland, Oregon. We represent Thrive Hood River. We would like to request a 7-day continuance from the commission. We had the opportunity tonight to hear from the applicant's attorney with their proposed alterations, and we would like the opportunity to review those and also respond to them in writing. So we would request a 7-day continuance and also to receive what was provided to the commission tonight in digital form tomorrow, if possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Kat Topaz.
I can't tell. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, I'll be quick. I wasn't actually planning on speaking, but it's really hard to listen. It's really emotional and hard to listen to everything. And I just wanted to add a couple comments. My husband and I also own a farm that
Kat, can you state your address for us, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Address is 17100 Northwest Sauvie Island Road. I'm out on Sauvie Island. And we have a farm stand, and we're lucky enough to have a market where we can also sell some produce from other farms. And we do sell some apples and pears and cherries from Hood River. And the reason that we're selling those is because the farm that has been in Hood River for 47 years that grows those is no longer able to sell it to distributors because they are buying produce from California at such a lower rate. And so we feel very lucky that we're able to help some local farmers sell their produce or their fruit because we do have a farm stand. And I don't know if folks that don't have a small farm understand the economics. And thank you, Hillary, for bringing that up. I mean, there may be a year where you break even, and there's then the next 3 years you're not as fortunate. And it could be from all sorts of crop failures, whether that's because of the heat or the rain or the bugs or human failure or things you can't even figure out. It's quite challenging, and having the ability to have the public come to your farm, especially when you're a small family farm, can be the difference in being able to stay in business or not. But I just want to offer one more thing. While we've only had our farm for 7 seasons, this farm's been going for 60 years, and our neighbor was the one who started it and ran it for years. And she often talks to us about the difference in buying habits. And folks used to come in and buy, 10 flats of berries and make jam, or 50 pounds of beets. You're lucky if you can find many customers that even know how to cook beets in my neck of the woods right now. But most people will come in with their family and they might get 3 pints of berries instead of flats because things have changed. I don't know if they're buying, pre-made salad kits in the grocery store or things that they can pop in their microwave. But the amount of folks coming to the farm to actually buy produce, it's very different. And so I know in our case, I think having kids come and families come is wholesome and a wonderful thing. Our farm is someplace in the community that's open to all. In fact, when we were going through COVID, the local school had their graduation on the farm because people couldn't fit inside the school safely. So the farms are struggling to stay alive, and I understand this is really tricky, and I just ask that um, you just consider some of these other items as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kat. Is there anybody else online that?
Yes, we have Andrea De Jesus or Andrea.
Andrea? Okay.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Got the video turned on. My name is Andrea De Jesus, and my address is 1374 Collins Lane, Manhattan, Kansas. I'm the treasurer of an international agritourism organization. I'm a member of Farm Bureau, and I also own an agritourism farm. I've served on my county planning committee for agritourism when it was a hot topic in our community. So I understand how hard and emotional this can be for you. And I thank you for being on the board and listening to us this evening. I wanted to let you know agritourism is what saved my farm. Like the Packer family, I grow fruits and vegetables, and I'm a third generation farmer. We reached a point one year where we couldn't make our farm payments, and that was the year that we opened our farm to the public. Crop prices alone and crop production alone isn't always enough to keep a farm alive. Tammi has played a key role in helping me expand my farm kitchen and strengthen our agritourism programs. Her impact reaches far beyond your community of Hood River. She has supported farms like mine across the country, and I fully support her work. By approving the agritourism changes being requested, you support the continuation of not only her family farm, but so many others. You support future farmers, both through her grandkids and grandkids, but you also by giving it to young children real exposure to agriculture. Think of all those school kids that are coming out, and this is their only exposure to agriculture. How many other orchards allowed field trips on them? Where can they see that? I encourage you to look past the objections raised by a neighbor who doesn't recognize the value of helping the next generation understand where their food comes from. Your decision can help protect the future of family farms in Hood River Valley. They are essential to the character and strength of your community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Is there anybody else in the audience wishes to speak? Okay, so on the continuance, since that was asked, are we still allowed to ask questions or do we need to wait?
So
I'm gonna let Elaine speak
Yeah,
first, but I just had a question about.
yes, no, definitely, now is your opportunity to ask
Okay.
questions, tonight. And then, once you've asked all your questions, we've got rebuttal, then the goal, and Jody can give us greater direction, but essentially at that point, then the hearing will be closed and then we'll go into the continuance. Jody, did I say that right, or is there more that needs to be said?
So the hearing won't close, it will just be continued. And be left open for the record, but everything else was perfect.
So let me ask before we get to this, can we take a 5-minute break?
Yes.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break. Please. Okay, we're out of our recess. Is there any public agencies, Eric? Okay. Elaine, if you want to go ahead and do your rebuttal, you need more 10 minutes or you.
And honestly, we are just here to answer any questions.
Okay.
We recognize the request for the continuance, so happy to address that. Appreciate the opportunity to provide final written legal argument during that time period. So if there are questions from the planning commission that you have of us, or would you like further explanation about certain things, would love to welcome those questions or comments so we can consider them in our written materials for you.
Okay, thank you. So We're gonna start with questions, Commissioner Guisto, we'll start with you.
Don't start with me. No, thank you.
Go ahead. Commissioner. No, we're starting with one of you and it's gonna, you lost.
Okay, so is there no way to do the, like, more just games instead of playground? That's my question.
Like educational games.
Yes.
Like the ones we saw, like on that, the board
Mhm.
or like kind of a game
Mhm.
board. I think if they were forced to do that, but like the existing temporary and permanent play areas and activity, are really critical. So, no.
Okay. That's everything for me.
I guess I do have a question.
Well, you're at the end now.
Oh,
We can go back and forth.
Oh, wait. I thought we were being talking.
Well, we can't.
I like
Okay.
ping pong's great.
Commissioner Guisto?
Based on the pictures and how it is out there, some are semi-temporary and some are kind of permanent. But would it solve some problems amongst the neighbors and the opposing party if the play structure areas were moved to a different location on the property?
Yeah, and I think, so that's a great question, and Tammy might wanna come talk more about what she's done. Because the 2025 site plan that's in the record reflects adjustments and reductions to the play areas and play equipment already. And so what's presented in the site plan and the existing conditions right now is a reduction in that and a consideration of what is permanent versus what is temporary. And the temporary is only available seasonally during the promotional activities. So I think that work has already been done to the extent that Packer Orchards thought it could reduce it and still be viable. Want to say more?
Can I jump in a second?
No.
Not right now. I mean, you'll.
Is there a reference to that site plan, like easy in this?
It's in the larger,
Oh, in
our larger packet.
And just for clarification for the crowd, right now we're in a rebuttal period that is offered to the appellant as having the burden to prove compliance with the standards. So that's why they're getting this special opportunity. The hearing's closed for other rebuttal, but you will have an opportunity to provide written comments to rebut anything that has come up tonight. And we'll talk more about that in a bit.
If you were to look at.
Tammy, I need you gotta state your name and
I'm sorry.
your address. Thank you.
3635 Detmers Drive, Riverport. If you were to come on to our farm place right now, you would see that there almost, I would say 80% of the property is planted right now in tulips. And there's only a very small amount of what everybody's talking about is construction. There's the two small play structures that are fairly permanent that just stay in one location. And there's a couple of farm equipments that are used for display purposes and educational purposes. There's the combine slide. There's a couple other small things, but they're so minimal in space and size and usage during 90% of the year that we don't even really think about them half the time. And I firmly believe that we are actively farming more ground than Rasmussen's ever was prior to us owning the property. We are farming more ground now than they ever were. And the income off that farm comparatively to what they portrayed when we first purchased that property
has almost tripled. And so our primary focus has always been to farm. But yes, the activities that we enlarge on during our fall festival, the pumpkin patch, which everybody seems to really want to focus on, and that's fine. That time frame, that 6 weeks of a 52-week year brings in the majority of our income, but that income also has to support us for 52 weeks. It's not just, it's a very small portion. And I really do feel that there's the focus has moved so much onto these small farm equipment, or not farm equipment, play equipment, and really moved away from the actual farming that our family does on this property. And we are really trying to show you that we are farm first, farm family first. But yes, the activities that we have grown over the last 10 years have become an experience that many families really enjoy coming to. And the act of admission is a piece that we incorporated back in almost since the beginning, but really in 19 and 20 really helped us during COVID, when we had to regulate the number of people that came onto our farms. And now the county has written in and the number of people that we are allowed at any given time on our farm. And really the only way that we can do that is through admissions. But I really want to reiterate back to the play structures. It is very minimal for majority of the year. Thank you.
And if interested, we could coordinate a site visit if a planning commissioner wanted to come out and visit the site. So we'll offer that if
Okay,
want to
thank
see
you.
it.
Kira, anything else?
Not for right now.
Okay. Commissioner Moore?
Thank you for your testimony and thanks to, oh, sorry. Thank you for your testimony and also thank you to planning staff. It's been a heavy lift and a lot of hard work, so thank you. Specific to the playground structure or equipment, depending on who's arguing in favor or against, are there permits required on other EFU zone ground for playground equipment?
As far as land use or building permit?
Well, building permits.
Building permits. So that question came up, and as part of the staff report, we posed the question to our building official, do these require building permits or not? Because there was a reference to an exemption for play equipment, and he said even though that exemption applies to residential play structures, as long as those play structures are outside of a building, then they are not regulated by the building code. As far as land use, certainly we would not normally regulate those things unless somebody wanted to do, say, a commercial playground or a commercial park of some sort, then that would be treated differently. But we see this more as an accessory use to the farm and not as a separate additional use.
And the same question for temporary tents or canopies. Building code required for that at all?
There's no building code for temporary tents. There may be exceptions to that, but for the most part, no, there are no building permits. Although the building department would say they still, if the public is going to be utilizing those, they have to be comprised of fire-rated materials for safety purposes.
Okay. And this area is outside of the gorge scenic area, so that's not an issue either. Couple of questions, and maybe this is just a general one. Why isn't cider and craft beer brewed in if the hops are grown here in the state of Oregon, if everything's brewed here, why would that still be considered an incidental sale?
It's not, as long as that product is an Oregon product and it's served in a container, then, you know, so like a bottle of wine, that can be sold the same as a piece of fruit. That's a farm product. But if you open that bottle of wine and you serve it in a glass and pour it out, then that's a prepared food item, that's an incidental sales item. So so to answer your question, beer, wine, cider, those things, as long as they're sold in a bottle, those can be counted as farm products.
Okay. What prevents somebody from selling an apple or a pear for $25 and then letting the public in for free to a farm stand?
I would say there's, if a person was willing to pay that, then I don't see that that's an issue.
So there's no restrictions on the, you know, amount of a particular item. Somebody said, I'm going to give you $25 and you walk in for free. They just bought a farm product. They can take off. Therefore, it wouldn't be considered in that 25% incidental area because they were buying a farm product.
Yeah, the county doesn't regulate the price of farm goods.
Okay, thank you. Let me see if there's anything else. And I believe they already stated it, but there was no farmland taken out of production for the establishment of the farm stand itself.
No, it's been established.
Yeah.
I think she said it's been increased.
Yeah.
It's
That
been
the amount of-
the increase
Okay.
over what was previously there.
Okay. No further questions at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Levin?
Following up on Commissioner Moore, thank you. Following up on Commissioner Moore, if the issue of the fees are a stumbling block, a similar thought occurred to me, which was, what if you said to your customers, come buy $20 worth of farm products, and then we'll sell you a pass to Pumpkin Days for $4.95. That would clearly delineate the difference between purchasing a farm product and the activity. That's more a rhetorical question. You don't need to answer it now. The other one, there's been an assertion that playgrounds are a common part of farm stand operations around the state. Do you have examples of similar sized playgrounds approved under a farm stand permit?
We do, and that's provided in tab 5 in your binder. One illustration of that is Red Berry Barn in Washington County. We've included their farm stand permit, and you'll see we added some of their promotional materials. Their activities include a mega slide, a zip line, a barrel train, tube slides, giant bouncing pumpkins, climbing rope tower, farm animals, haystacks, tetherball, wiggly carts, bounce slides, bubble stations, corn maze, inflatable obstacle course, bounce pads, yard games, play structures, corn barns, and photo ops.
A related question. The director's decision was based in part on the definition of a structure. And the assertion is in the director's decision that the playground equipment such as the mini houses and the slides and whatnot are in fact structures. Yet you, I believe, asserted that they are not structures, and so we're left with the not being an attorney, I'll put it in my terms, it's kind of a he said, she said thing. So how do we determine what's the factual basis for that?
I think you can look to Greenfield for that. And we've explained it more in detail in our written material in our letter about where the distinction is about structures for the sale of farm crops versus like built things to be used in the promotion of the farm stand. And there's discussion in Greenfield about that distinguishes between what's a structure versus an unauthorized structure versus activities that may have built things that are used for entertainment, education, promotion of and marketing of the farm crops. Yeah, and that's the next thing too is under the arguments of Brent Mawr and Lane County, the county needs to apply the standards that are in the state statutes and the rules. And the county's rationale for condition 11 and its definition of structures is based on the local code. And our position is that the local code's definition of structures is additional legislative criteria that the county applied, which is prohibited under Brent Mawr. And so that's how we get there in a couple of different ways for why condition 11 is not appropriate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else, Jay? Commissioner Garrett?
Thanks everybody for being here. The big thanks to the public. This is part of our civic duty. So whether you're for it or against it, I appreciate your time sitting here for 3 hours. I have 2 questions. And they may be better answered during deliberation later, but I'm gonna throw them out there now. One of the commissioners mentioned alcohol. Now, if it's a bottle of beer, it's considered a farm product. Even if it's a single serving of beer, it's considered a farm product. And it seems to me like by that logic, a single serving of something else that's packaged of farm goods would also be a farm product. I guess the question on that currently is how are those products, let's take a cookie and a beer, because they're examples of the product, how are they currently being sold on premises?
Cookies are in the USDA sealed packages and sold with the packaged goods. Beer is sold with open, like on tap, right?
And
during certain times.
And the beer on tap you're not arguing that that's part of the 25% is.
But the beer in the bottle you could pull out of the cooler.
That's different.
That's processed farm crop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
And then the other question, and I don't have my big packet in front of me because it's been some time. There's a note on the most recent director's report for December 1st on page 9, footnote 5. It says the applicant previously applied for both an on-site bakery and an agritourism event site. I've heard the word agritourism thrown out by a lot of people today in support of Packers. Would you be able to tell me a little bit about that application and why it was withdrawn?
Sure.
And there might be some input from county staff on.
And I will address the nomenclature of agritourism. Oftentimes agritourism is used as a general term to describe activities that bring people to the farm to learn about the farm and buy things and things like that. Under Oregon's land use law, there are different use categories. And so farm stands is a Cat 1 use category, whereas agritourism under Oregon's regime is in many cases a conditional use permit, unless it's connected to a permitted use winery, cidery, brewery. So initially Packer Orchards was contemplating building a brand new building. And so that permit came in associated with the new building and revised operations, and that was decided to not move forward with that for a variety of reasons, and so that application was dropped.
And I think those are my questions. Thank you.
Thanks, John. So I just have 2 questions. I guess one of them is for Tammy. Is there any way to move the play area to a different location on the farm?
Can I sit here?
Yep.
We have thought about that many times, my daughter. And the reason why it was placed where it is right now is because of the flow of water that comes off the two residential homes that were built on top of the strawberry fields that Rasmussen sold before they sold us the problem. Those homes both sit a little bit higher, and the water, like right now, I have drone videos, even if I've got videos from yesterday.
You gotta remember where I farm. I understand what you're talking about with the water.
Thank you.
Odell.
But the water that comes off of there, we had initially had orchard planted there, but there's so much water, the
Okay.
water level is so high that it just killed all the orchards. So that was why it was placed there, because it was just a non-plantable.
Gotcha.
area.
Okay. Good. And then, so Eric, I think this is for you. If an apple or pear is purchased and consumed on site, is that considered an incidental?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I would say, my sense is that it would not be considered a prepared food item. It's a piece of fruit.
So a carameled apple, that would be a prepared food item.
At that point, it's a processed farm crop product at that point, because it's been converted from an apple to a caramel.
Still an apple. It's just got caramel.
But a process has been taken in order to change its,
So could you have a tub of caramel that went along with the apple where it was not,
The apple nachos.
yeah. Would that be considered an incidental?
well, if you're selling them separately, you look
Well,
at
if
the
you buy the
caramel.
apple and you have there's a stick in it, and then you have the caramel comes with it, or the caramel's in a tray, how does that? You're still buying the apple.
You're buying the caramel too.
No, you're not.
Caramel's free.
Caramel's free. I mean, I'm just trying to, I'm trying to get around you're not gonna buy 8 apples with caramel.
Sure.
You might buy 8 apples and eat one of them on the deal. But so if the caramel's provided, then it turns into a processed deal.
Well, you're providing a scenario. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to answer that question. It seemed like, at the end of the day, are you providing that in order for it to be consumed on site? How is it different than if you're providing, bowl of blueberries and chocolate syrup?
Right.
You know, the intent is that
But the intent is to eat the apple.
We can't regulate what the consumer does with it.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's what,
Yeah.
no, that's what I'm,
Yeah.
Well, and there's a real life, oh, sorry. I mean, I thought the whole point of the whole thing is that the intent is for the people to come out and buy farm products.
That's right.
And if they're buying a farm product, then
Right.
you're accomplishing the intent. Whether they're putting chocolate or caramel on it.
right.
But it's no different than a bottle of beer. If you take it to buy it to take home, you can open it up in the parking lot. It might not be legal, but like
Well, it doesn't-
the consumer.
Whatever county.
Well,
Yeah.
city of Woodruff.
We're not in the city, John.
But I guess it's the same thing. If you buy a carameled apple,
No, you're buying an apple with caramel.
but if you're buying a bottle of beer, it's a
Right. I mean,
farm product.
right. That was my other question I mean, you answered, that question was answered. So if you're
But-
buying a bottle of beer that you can legally drink there, would that be considered an incidental because you can? Or
The intent is for them to take it home.
Or are we going with the intent that they're gonna take it outside of the area and drink it in the parking lot?
Yeah, so obviously there's no stipulation that you can or cannot eat products that you have purchased in the farm stand. What we're trying to determine is what's the likelihood of that happening. And so in the example of a beer, if you buy a bottle of beer and someone takes that out and opens it and consumes it, even though that's being allowed to be purchased as a farm product, but it gets actually consumed on site. It doesn't, I mean, the reality is it doesn't matter. It's kind of how it's being sold and how it's being presented and how it's the likelihood of it being consumed or not.
Okay.
If I may, the using the USDA label, the sealed label for packaged goods. Illustrates Packer Orchard's intent that good, that product is meant to be bought and taken away.
Sure.
So it's like, there's caramel apples that are packaged with USDA seals. And they're like intended to be in a box and be taken away. But there's also caramel apples that are sold over the counter that are cut up and like served on a little plate that people can eat on site. And so in that scenario, the cut up apples get captured as incidental sales across the counter, whereas the box going out the door of the caramel apple is captured as a processed food, or processed farm crop.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question for staff and maybe, I think it's hard to visualize what's happening. Would it be appropriate to be able to see it prior to deliberations, or is that an inappropriate thing if we all do it together?
I think I'll defer to county council.
Okay.
Are you thinking that you would view when you go on site? I mean, what do you mean? Would you like the applicant to bring an example to you?
No, I'm specifically thinking of like the structures. I'm a visual. I want to field trip.
There, drink some beers.
No beers. No caramels, apples, just to see it. And I know as a commissioner, I'm not like allowed to go and see it on my own. Because that would bring some sort of level of bias. But as a group, I think it would be helpful to see it.
Is that permissible?
It's fine if it's not. Just
So I believe that you're right. If the group collectively wanted to do an on-site visit as part of their investigation, I don't see anything wrong with that. I wouldn't recommend you do it individually.
Right.
You're on site.
Okay. Well, we can probably discuss that.
Yeah.
Afterwards if we wanna do that. Does anybody else have any more questions?
I do. Back to the bulk test. Where did that come from? Is there case law on that
No,
or
absolutely not.
ORS?
No, there's not.
Absolutely.
It came out through the discussion with the appellant and trying to help determine, because I think the group would agree that if you are selling a product, let's just say a whole pie, it's very unlikely that somebody's going to take that pie, have brought forks and consume it on site.
Challenge accepted.
But if you're selling a hand pie, then it could be likely that could be consumed on site. So we're trying to figure out a way that is reasonable to determine, okay, if we're gonna go with, if a whole pie is okay, then maybe if you had enough individual pies in a container that was equivalent to a whole pie, then yeah, they should be treated the same way. The proposal was, if you buy 3 individual items, then that's bulk sale. But less than 3, then that would be an incidental sale.
We were trying to find a meet in the middle.
Yeah. And so the idea was, is 3 really the number? It seemed low. And so staff created 8 as a result, based on like, okay, how many servings are in a pie? 8. And so that seemed like a reasonable place to land. So.
Okay, another question. Semi-related to that, if we accept this bulk test that I don't love, but if we accept it and we pick a number and that's the number, is that now the number for Hood River County? Is that how it, like, all farm stands operate under this number? And if there's other farm stands selling packaged goods, cookies or hand pies or whatever it is they might sell, they need to be kind of in this like 3 or 8 or whatever this number is, and then everybody's gonna start operating under these rules? Is that the idea? Like,
Yeah, I
this is
think-
setting a precedent?
I think that we would want consistency. And so if another farm stand had a similar situation where they provided items that, baked items or other goods, that are intended for on-site consumption. And I think it's important to note that the decision does not restrict the ability to sell these items. It's just which category are they put into. So that's what we're trying to find. And so to answer your question, yes, if another farm stand in Tougaloo County operated similarly, we would use that as a guide for that farm stand as well.
But only if there's a complaint.
Elaine,
I think one thing to add to this conversation for your consideration is that Packer Orchard is being penalized by its packaged goods because the item, whether it's one item, 3 items, or 8 items, and it has gone through the 50% ingredient by volume test, it's a processed farm crop that is allowed to be sold out of the farm stand. It's not regulated. And so by adding the packaging test to it, you are regulating an otherwise unregulated sale. And that's not okay. And that's where it's like, we tried to meet in the middle to try to figure out a solution. But really the better solution is looking at the intent of the packaging, and you wouldn't go through the process of OHA packaging requirements and USD labeling if the intent was not to have it go out the door. You wouldn't spend the money to do all that if you just intended to sell it on site for consumption. And so that's where we're coming from on this solution.
And so it's yours, DWT's opinion under 3C with your revised language that you handed out. That's what you would propose
That's our
as a
position.
solution.
Yeah. Yeah.
so do you offer things unpackaged? Like the cookies, are the cookies unpackaged?
There are other items offered over the counter. I don't know all the items you have.
So all.
I mean, all I'm doing is so I know you have packaged cookies. So do you also sell cookies unpackaged? No, okay,
All of our bakery items come packed.
okay.
If I could just speak for one moment about our bakery, and I think it's a huge precedent for our family.
Elaine, could you give her the microphone? All you have to do is hold it, Tammy.
Okay. One thing that I think is very special and unique about our bakery is it's a true value-added bakery. And it came about in the late 90s through the Hood River Economic Development Grant. And they helped us to develop the bakery as a value-added bakery through the process of using pear concentrate as part of our sugar, if not all of the sugar, in every one of our bakery items. And that is a key selling point of our bakery. And this year alone, we've used over 26 tons of pears to produce the pear concentrate that goes into our bakery products. And it was brought up that, well, a few drops of pear concentrate don't account for a value-added product, but we've shown in our recipes that it takes approximately about 2 ounces of actual pear, to produce enough pear concentrate for each cookie item. And the cookies have become such a hot topic item. And I'm not disagreeing that they can't be a hot topic item, but we've worked very, very hard to keep our bakery compliant as a value-added production bakery.
You got something else?
No, that's it.
Have they always been individually packaged, or have they been sold in our?
Prior to COVID, we sold them, they weren't, we weren't required to have them individually packaged. And 19 and 20 is when the USDA law started to change, and then we needed to package each one with the individual label with ingredients listed on each package.
And then do you have the containers like at Rosar's where you put like 8 cookies in one container and then seal that container?
If a customer would like to purchase a bulk amount of cookies, they can buy. We have a box that they can use if they would like.
To put the sealed cookies in now.
They put the sealed cookies in. We don't ever offer unsealed products.
Okay.
And that's all come about from COVID, correct?
It was started prior to COVID.
Okay.
But COVID kind of
Okay.
brought it forward.
Any other questions? Okay, So at this point, we will take no more further testimony, and this hearing has been continued until the 24th of December and then there'll be a.
So just a second,
What?
Mr. Chair, just a couple things.
Okay.
And Jody, please chime in. I think that's the first thing that needs to happen, I think, is you need to close the hearing for further oral testimony.
I thought I just said that.
Don't close it, don't close it.
Don't close.
Go do what Eric says.
You don't want it, so the hearing is still technically open, even though it's.
Yeah, but it's closed to any further testimony, correct?
Yeah, so it's basically open still for written testimony.
Okay.
So it's a continuance, and I think you'll start at staff recommendation, but I might be wrong on that. Eric, I don't know what the standard protocol is for after rebuttal. Is that when you do your staff recommendation?
Yeah, I think what I'm used to is that that no more oral testimony is provided. The hearing is left open for written testimony per the continuance request that was made. And then there has been a request to adjust the continuance period. Usually it's the 7-day period, 3 7 days in a row. In this case, a request has been made to extend, because of the holidays and of other conflicts, to extend the comment periods into 3 14-day periods. So the first 14-day period would be for new written testimony to be submitted. The second 14-day period would be for rebutting, and correct me, attorneys, if I'm stating this, rebutting testimony that was received during the first 7-day period. And then the final 7-day period is for the appellant only for final rebuttals. Is that correct, Elaine and Jody?
Yes.
So that's the request.
And then continue for deliberations and a decision to a date certain of February 11th.
And that's what the commission needs to check their calendar to make sure that does fall on a regular meeting night.
Everybody good on that? Where are you going?
Panama.
You can zoom in a little bit. Okay.
And will you read those dates out loud?
Yeah, I will. Can I read the dates out loud?
Yeah,
Okay. So your handwriting's worse than mine.
I'm sorry.
I'm left-handed. So I'm gonna what's the next word after opening?
People have till December 24th for new written.
Okay,
testimony
so new written testimony will be open from today until the December 24th. Rebuttals will be from the 24th to the 7th, the 1st, January 7th. And then final.
It's a second.
No, it's.
It's gonna be 14 days.
And then the final arguments, legal arguments will be the January 21st with a hearing for deliberation and decision on the 2nd of February 11th. Okay.
One request, if you do want to do an on-site visit, I think that you should probably schedule that here if you can. I know that that's difficult with calendars. Just because.
Okay, if we did it through, have Eric facilitate an email, so I think we can get or do you want us to do it right now tonight?
I'm gonna look at Elaine and see if she would be opposed to sort of Eric facilitating that.
It's fine as long as no public notice goes out of the site visit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's okay by me if it's okay by Eric.
Is that okay with you to facilitate that between between us, or would you like us to try to figure something out tonight?
Well,
It would be,
like Elaine said, it sounds like we will have to provide public notice of the site visit because technically it's a public meeting.
Unless you do a date and time right now. I'll know.
and that's public notice. Yeah,
Okay.
we do it right now. It's public notice. And we don't, if some of us can make it and others can't, that's fine because it's like a public meeting,
Okay,
correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes.
all right, I guess we need to coordinate with you too also. Are you guys gonna be available? Okay,
Well,
My-
20th through the 27th are the only dates we would be open in the month.
oh,
So
okay,
My next week looks good.
all right. Yeah, I'm fine next week.
Pretty much.
And what about days of the week? Is that whatever?
Times of day?
that's fine.
Kira? Rylan?
The 19th is not good for me.
Okay,
And the afternoon of the 17th.
okay. Jake?
16th or 17th would work best.
Okay,
16th or 17th, mostly available.
Josh?
Yeah, let's do the 16th. 16th works for me.
Okay,
Particularly in the afternoon for me.
Afternoon's good for me.
okay. What time? Everybody, the afternoon work, like on the 16th?
Gets dark at like 3:30, so we gotta do it before then.
It's not. So, 3 o'clock?
3 o'clock.
Does 3 o'clock work?
Does that work for you guys?
And the county will provide a cat bus for us? I'm kidding. Okay,
Tuesday, December 16th.
And
3 o'clock.
What would everybody do without them?
Rely on Eric to send us an email.
We're still gonna rely on that, right?
Would you have somebody send a reminder out?
Oh, yeah. No, we'll
Okay.
definitely send you a reminder.
And are you gonna be there?
I will then.
Oh, perfect.
We will meet on site.
Yes, we will meet on site. Okay, if that's everything, we can adjourn, correct?
Thank you.
I believe that's everything that we.
Perfect, then we are adjourned.
Well done, boss.